Good morning, children. Welcome to your English video lecture. Children, today in this video lecture, we are going to start English language. Okay, and in English language, the topic, the part that we are going to cover or discuss in this video is verb, active, and passive voices. Okay, so let's discuss that what are voices, why we use voices. Okay, so first of all, a transitive verb has two voices. Okay, simply they are known as active and passive voice. So first of all, before we move into understanding that what are active and passive voices, the first thing that we have to understand is that what is the voice. Okay, so the voice of a verb, it basically indicates whether its subject is the doer. Okay, subject is the doer or the receiver or receiver of the action. So basically voice tells you about the indicates, or it tells you about that whether the subject is the doer, he is the person who is performing the action, or he is the one who receives the action. Okay, so this is the basic, you can say, understanding that what is voices. Now let's moving forward. Now we are going to discuss that what are active voices and passive voices. Okay, so okay children, now let's understand active and passive voice with the help of an example. Okay, so here in this picture you can see that we can say that a tiger is being killed by a hunter, right? The tiger is being killed by the hunter. So we can describe this picture in two different ways, right? The sentence can be formed in two different ways. Now let's see what can be those. The first one is the hunter killed the tiger, right? The hunter killed the tiger, which basically tells you that the tiger, it is it gets killed by the hunter, right? Now the second one is the tiger was killed by the hunter. The tiger was killed by the hunter. So here in both the sentences, what is the difference? The meaning of the meaning of both the sentences is similar, right? That a tiger is being killed by hunter. But what is the difference between both the sentences? So in the first one, we can say that both the sentences, they mean the same thing, but in sentence one, the subject, what is the subject here? Hunter. Okay, he is the doer, means the action of killing. First of all, action is killed, right? The action of killing is done by the hunter. So he is the subject, okay, or the doer of these of the action, right? And on in the second sentence we can see that the subject, okay, what is the subject? Subject here, the tiger. Okay, okay, and in the second sentence the object, okay, this is the object, action is being performed on the tiger, but here the object is the receiver of the action, or you can say the receiver of the action. Okay, so we can clearly see that both the voices, it is different. Now what is active and passive voice? So we can simply say that when the subject of the verb or verb act or on the subject is, or the subject is the doer. Okay, so when a subject is of the verb is the doer of the action, or he acts on something, that time we can say that the voice that is mentioned in the sentence is active voice. Okay, so here let's see it again, that when the subject of a verb acts, okay, when the subject of the verb acts or the subject is the doer of the action, the verb is said to be active voice. So here let's take example here. Kanta writes a letter. Kanta is the subject who is performing the action of writing. Okay, so this is verb, and what is the object here? That is letter writing. Okay, so Kanta is the subject or the doer of the action. Okay, now similarly the second example, Raman helped Sita. Raman helped Sita. Okay, so here Raman is the subject who is performing the action of helping Sita. Okay, so in both the sentences we can see that the subject of the verb is acting, okay, or the subject of the verb is performing an action, or he is the doer of the action. So this implies, or we can simply say that whenever the verb is acting, okay, or sorry, not the verb, whenever the subject is the doer in the action of the action, okay, or whenever the subject of a verb acts, then the voice that is in the sentence is going to be active voice. Okay, now let's see what is passive voice. For passive, okay, now for passive voice, children, what is passive voice? Passive voice is when the subject of the verb is acted upon, okay, or the action, that he is the receiver of the action. Subject is going to be the receiver of the action in passive voice, and in active voice the subject is going to be the doer of the action, or he is the one who is performing the action. Okay, that is active voice. But for passive voice, he is going to be the receiver of the action. Okay, the subject is now going to turn into turn into the thing on which the action is being we are going to perform. Okay, acted upon, we can simply say subject of a verb is acted upon. Okay, so here you can see that the first example of active voice is given. Let me clear it out for you. Okay, so here the first example of Kanta writes a letter, which is in active form. Okay, active voice. Now we are going to change this into passive voice. For passive voice, what we are going to do, we are going to put the object first. Okay, object. After object, we are going to write the verb, and then we are going to mention the subject. Okay, and in active voice, the first thing that is going to come is the subject. After subject, we are going to write the verb, and at last we are going to write the object, which shows you that the subject is the doer of the action. And here in the second part, in the passive voice part, you can see that the subject is the receiver of the action. So now let's see the first example, that is Kanta writes a letter, which is in active form. To change it in the passive voice, we can see that what is written here, a letter is written by Kanta. Written is the verb here. Okay, it is the verb. And what is the object here? That is letter writing. And who is the subject? Kanta. Okay, and in both the sentences we can see that the meaning of the sentence is same, right? But they both have different voices. Now the second example, Raman helped Sita. Okay, Raman helped Sita. So here Raman was subject, helped was verb, and Sita was the object in the action. Now for turning it into the passive voice, first we are going to mention the subject, then we have mentioned the verb, and after that we have mentioned the subject here. Okay, so I hope this is clear to all of you that what is active and passive voice. So the basic difference between active and passive voice, or to identify whether it is a sentence is in active form or a passive form, you just have to simply see that what if the subject is the doer of the action, then the voice that is in the sentence is, okay, that is going to be active voice. And if the subject is the receiver of the action, then the sentence, you can say that the sentence has a passive voice. Okay, so I hope this part is clear to all of you children. Now moving further, we are going to discuss that how we can change voices. Okay, but before that we still have one point, that is passive voice is used when the subject of the active voice is unknown. When we are going to use passive voice, when the subject of the voice is unknown, okay, or unimportant or vague. Vague means it is not clearly known. Okay, like people, who people, they, somebody, a person. Okay, then we are going to use passive voice. Okay, now moving further children, now we are going to discuss that how, let's see what are the rules that we have to follow, okay, or how we are going to change active voice to passive voice. Okay children, so here you can see that what are the rules. Okay, so the first rule is that subject in the active voice takes the place of the object in the passive voice. Okay, so the general construction of active voice is that first we write subject, then we write the verb, and then we write the object. This is for active voice. Okay children, now to change active voice to passive voice, what we are going to do, the structure of the sentence is going to be object, okay, then verb is as it is there, and then the subject. Okay, this is for passive voice. Okay, so you can clearly see how we are going to change active voice to the passive voice. We just simply have to shift the subject, okay, subject to the object side. Okay, first section done. Then the second point says that object in the active voice takes the place of the subject in the passive voice. Okay, so when we are shifting subject to the side of object or the place of object, so simply the object will move to the or takes the place of subject. Okay, clear? And then the third thing is that by is used before object in the passive voice. Okay, so by is used before the object in the passive voice. It basically means that that how we have to write by here. Okay, so simply the structure of the sentence is going to be object plus verb plus by, and then we have to write the subject. Okay, children, understood? These are the things that we have to do in order to change the active voice to passive voice. Okay, now let's continue. So children, in the previous part we saw that what are active and passive voices. Now we are going to see that how we can change active voice, okay, to passive voice, and what are the rules that we have to follow accordingly. Okay, so first of all we are going to see that when the verb is in the simple present form, how we are going to change active voice to the passive voice. Okay, so first of all let's see example here. One example is given here, that is for changing active voice. This is the active voice. Children like the game of cricket. Okay, children like the game of cricket. So here first of all children is a subject here, right? Correct. Now what is the verb here? That is like. Okay, like is the verb here, and this part is the object here. Okay, this is the object. So here the subject is the doer of the action. Okay, what is the action that is here? That is verb. The like. Okay, the children like the game. Now for passive voice, okay, this is changed into passive voice. First of all, like is in the, this is the verb which is in simple present form. Okay, so now for changing this active voice to passive voice, what we have done is, the rule that we have to follow is that first of all we are going to write the object. This is the object here. Okay, so the object is first. We have written the object. Now after object we are going to write the verb, and this is the rule that we have to follow while writing the verb. The rule is we have to use is, am, are accordingly, and then with the verb we have to change the verb into its past participle form, that is means the verb, the third form of the verb. Okay, so now the object is written. The object is the game of cricket, that is written here. After this we have added is. Okay, like, third form of like is liked, and with this we have added by. Okay, and then the subject, that is the children. Okay, so now what is the sentence here? The game of cricket is liked by the children. Okay, so now let's move on to another few more example to clarify this much better, in a much better way. Okay, so for simple present tense, these are some examples. So let's see how they have changed the active voice to a passive voice. So let's focus on the first one. The grocer sells sugar. What is the verb? What is the subject here? The doer is the grocer. Okay, action is, or the verb is selling. Okay, this is the subject, this is verb, and this is the object here. Okay, object. Subject is performing the action of selling the sugar. Okay, now for changing active to passive voice, what we have to do? We have to change, we have to first put the object, then the verb, and then the subject, right? So object has shifted, is shifted to the first starting of the sentence, that is sugar. Now with the verb we are going to follow the rule, and the rule for simple present tense is using is, am, are, and then the third form of the verb. So sells, third form of the verb is sold, is sold. Okay, then we have added buy, and then simply we have put the subject here, that is the grocer. Okay, so I hope now this is much clear to you, but let's take another example to make it much more clear. Okay, so now let's see the second one. Yes. Okay, so second one is cat catches mice. Okay, cat catch mice. Okay, cat catch mice. So this is the subject is the cat. Okay, catch is the verb and mice is the object. Okay, what is the action that is being performed here? That is of catching the mouse. Okay, and who is catching it? Catching the mouse, that is the action. Who by whom which is this action is being performed, that is the subject, and the subject here is cat. Okay, simple. Now to change it, we have to simply reverse the whole thing. Object, then verb, and then the subject. So we have simply put the object first. After putting the object, we have to now change the verb, and the rule for changing the verb is we have to write is, am, are accordingly. Okay, and the third form of the verb. So that is also done here, and then we have to add by, and after this we have added the subject at the last. Okay, so this is now what is from active to passive, what we have done. In active, the subject was the performer, or you can say doer of the action, but now in passive voice, what is being written here? It is being simply said that the subject is the receiver of the action. He is receiving the action of being caught. Okay, he receives the action here. So I hope now with these three examples, this is clear to you that how we can change the verb, okay, for simple present tense when we are changing active voice to passive voice. Okay, now let's see how to change present continuous verb. Okay, and then how can we change the active voice to passive voice. So here the second part, see the example students. For active voice, children are flying kites. Okay, so here the subject is children. Okay, then we have the action which is here flying. Okay, and then the object is kites. Okay, clear? So now children, we have to change the active voice to passive voice. So the simple first thing that we have to do is, first we have to mention the object, that is kite. Okay, which is already being written here. After this, what we have to do is, after object, we have to follow the rule, this rule for changing the verb. Okay, so now we have to put the verb, and for verb, what we have to do, we have to use is, am, are accordingly. So now we have to use is, am, are, and with is, am, are, we also need to write being. Okay, is, am, are, and then being, then the third form of the verb. So let's see here, are. Okay, then we have written being, and then with the verb we have to write the third form of the verb, which is flown. Okay, and then again we have to write by, and then the subject. Okay, so this is how you are going to change the verb in present continuous form to active when you are changing the voices. Okay, this is the rule that you have to follow. Now let's see some other examples, few more examples of present continuous tense here. So see the first example students, the farmer is ploughing the field. Okay, so here what is the subject? Subject is this one. Okay, this is the subject, farmer. Verb is this, and object is this. Okay, now for changing active to passive, what we are going to do, first we are going to write the object, that is field. Okay, so the field is written here. Then now the turn of the object, the verb. So for verb, what we are going to do, we are going to use is, am, are accordingly, and being with it. Okay, so is, being, and then the third form of the verb, plugged. Okay, and then by, and again the subject. Okay, clear? Let's see another example. The third one. Is the farmer plugging the field? Okay, so here you can see this is in the interrogative sentence form. Okay, interrogative form. So is the farmer plugging the field? Okay, so this is the subject, farmer. Okay, plugging, verb, and then the field is the object here. Now first we have written the object. Okay, then with writing the object we are going to write being and then the third form of the verb. Okay, and now by and the subject. Okay, so I hope this is clear to you. Now children, moving forward, now we are going to see that how we are going to change present perfect. Okay, so let's see example. Wait, yes. So the first one is the example here is active voice. Example of active voice is some miscreants have cut all the telephone wires. Okay, some miscreants have cut the telephone wires. So here some miscreants. Okay, this is vague information. Okay, they don't know who are they. Okay, so this is the subject first of all. Then the action is cut. Right? And then this part is the verb part. And the rest here is the object. So first we are going to write the object, that is the telephone wires. Okay. Then with this the verb rule. Okay. For verb, what is the rule that we have to follow? This one. And the rule says that we have to use have. Okay. Have or has. And then been, and then the third form of the verb. So here we have changed this have been cut. Okay, the verb have been cut by some miscreants. Okay, clear? Now let's see some few more examples of this present perfect tense. Okay, the first one, Ashoka has written this letter. Okay, Ashoka has written this letter. So now what we are going to do, first of all we are going to write the object that we have written here. Okay, done, first section. Then we have to change the verb, and for changing the verb, what is the rule? We have to use has and have or has. Okay, and with that been and third form of the verb. So has is written here, then been and the third form of written is written. Okay, and then by. And who has written that? Who is the subject here? Who is the doer of the action? In the first part we have seen that Ashoka is the doer here. Now here in the second part, that is passive voice, he becomes the receiver of the action. Okay, understood? Clear? Here are a few more examples. You can look into this, and if you have any doubt you can ask me, children. So children, here I am going to end the first part of the video where we have discussed that what are active and passive voice, and with that we have also discussed how we can change active voice to passive voice when the verbs are in simple present form, okay, present continuous form and present perfect form. Okay, and I hope that this is clear to all of you. Okay students, thank you and have a nice day.